Good morning, good afternoon, or indeed good evening, and welcome to Pit Road Productions. My name is Daniel Zippy Salmon, and joining me in the booth today is going to be the one and only Mr. Morgan Smith. Now, Morgan, leader of WBM, it's great to have you here in the booth. Certainly not the first time, I believe it's actually the third time we've had you here on Pit Road Productions. It's definitely a little bit of a change of pace for you. Certainly giving that Audi a little bit of a break here this week.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, Zippy. I will say my pit crew is happy to take the week off. I've melted a few too many tires this season, so my team's asking to save a little money this week, and we'll take it off, and we'll see how everyone else goes around Rudskogen this week.
Well, it certainly is indeed, and we are actually on the lookout here for Reese Gardner, who I do understand wanted to drive, and I'm yet to see him join the session, but don't get me wrong, it's about 9 o'clock in the morning over in the Australian part of the world, but I gotta say, we're gonna flick over to the cameras now, Morgan. I gotta say, it's gonna be an absolute battle race. Certainly, Rudskogen, it's a track that you're quite familiar with. Myself, not so much. Maybe you should give us a couple of little quick tips here for the best way to approach this particular venue.
Yeah, Rudskogen's a short track, but it's a lot of fun. A lot of elevation changes and a lot of challenging brake zones uphill where the hills can assist you braking, but if you try to push that brake zone, you may end up cresting that hill and carrying a little bit too much speed into the corners. There's some nice S curves as well where if you carry a little bit too much speed, the transfer of weight can really throw the car off. So I think it's a good track. It's got a lot of dynamic driving and it's short distance that it covers, and I think it should be some good racing in GT3s.
Well, certainly I am indeed looking forward to it. But speaking of the venue, ladies and gentlemen, let's see indeed where we've been and indeed where we're going as we took round one at Daytona. I think I actually drove that one. I don't know if I think I did. I know I certainly wanted to, with Long Beach being for round two, which I do believe we had I think it was Reese out for that one. Mugello was round 3 with Laguna Seca for round 4. And then over there to round 5, ladies and gentlemen, which has just gone and disappeared on me. We're just going to cheat and bring that back here in just a second. But round 6 took us to Spa. Round 7, the British Formula 1 circuit of Silverstone with round 8 in Imola. Round 9, Rudskogen. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. Round 5 was Hockenheim. With round 10, it's going to take us over to Rob's personal favourite of Sebring. Certainly he has definitely had a little bit of unfortunate luck there, but Morgan, I gotta say, having a quick look at this, it looks like it's going to be quite warm here, 30 degrees Celsius, the Norwegian track it is indeed, but maybe let's go over some of these championship points.
Yeah, I know we're having a tight championship battle. A lot of these guys were trying to show up and get results in the last few handful of races here, so should be a tight battle moving in. I know that this track's kind of a curveball for some drivers, so could be some unique results tonight and some guys moving around the points after the evening.
Absolutely. I know Dylan Newhart is keen to try and capitalize on that. And unfortunately, we're going to be missing Austin Diltz tonight. He has a couple of little technical difficulties with the PC. I believe we can thank Asus for that. They certainly suck at PC components recently. Just watch, I think it's Gamers Nexus who I'm thinking of. That guy, Steve, is honestly, he's an absolute legend. We'll happily give him a shout out. Let's see, you're up there. What's the Celsius? That's enough out of you. Parker Dime, though, is really the one that Dylan was worried about. He would have definitely liked to have seen him having computer issues, albeit in the friendliest of ways. But I can understand that we do actually have a new member of WBM, albeit he's not in uniform today there, Mo.
Yes, Dylan Newhart has joined our team. We're more of a team in spirit. We don't have any requirements here at WBM, so he's going to be out there repping his paints, keeping true to himself. I know he's got Pit Road banner on, so he's repping the broadcast as well. We let all of our drivers do and be as they please, so we're happy to have Dylan along in the chat, another competitive driver to help make everyone around him better.
Yeah, and certainly it looks like my dreams have indeed finally come true. Do you know exactly who's on this paint here, Morgan?
It looks like a lady I know by the name of Sophia, right? I think it's a fan favorite around here at Pit Road.
Oh, it certainly is. Ladies and gentlemen, it's pretty easy which car I'm going to be cheering for today. And not only because it's on the top spot, ladies and gentlemen, but because Dylan, I would like to say, he's kind of part of Pit Road Productions as well in his own right. He's been helping us get some video footage together from some of our past broadcasts as well. Certainly that, I got to thank YouTube for that. They definitely do make it a little bit more difficult than I feel it needs to be. That honestly, even as a channel owner, I cannot download my own videos in full resolution, which honestly seems absolutely ridiculous. Make it a paid feature if it has to be, but can't say that I understand the logic in that. But definitely we're going to see some fun battles so far. It looks like Dylan is currently out there in P1, but Parker Dime actually incredibly stopped. He was only a couple of hundredths of a second, about 400ths of a second behind Dustin Neer, who's definitely having one of his better days. Actually got that Corvette onto second spot as qualifying is indeed starting to come to an end.
Yeah, I know Parker stressed this week he may not have had the time to get in as many laps as he wanted, but he was going to be here and try his best to be competitive with the little practice he had. So we'll see if he can turn his P3 qualifying run into another first place, especially with Austin's absence. But I think Dustin Nierhoff in P2, I know he gave Dylan some grace last week. Maybe we don't see any freebies given this week and we see some competition up front with Dustin and his Dylan teammate.
Absolutely, and certainly I am indeed looking forward to it. And I've got to say, absolutely beautiful elevation change here. We can see there at Rudskogen. I think I've only driven this track once before myself, and that was in a spec race of Ford, much to the surprise of nobody, ladies and gentlemen. I was like, oh, mate, I'm still, what's the Celsius? I felt sure Celsius was the units we used here in Canada, so I don't know quite what Rob's on about with that one, but I got to admit, a huge thank you to Morgan there for coming out into the booth with us. I'm not quite sure where Reese is. Generally, he's pretty good, but don't get me wrong, he may have a bit of stuff going on in real life. Regardless, we are very happy that we got Morgan here in the booth, giving him a little bit more experience as well. And certainly, not only that, Morgan, why don't you take this quick moment to tell us a little bit more about WBM, especially that merchandise that I've been so keen to try and get on stream.
Yeah, I think we're going to need to do some special gifts after the season commences here, after the season ends, to hopefully get some of you guys some gear for WBM to pay homage to our favorite broadcast team. WBM, our motto is 90% family, 10% racing. So I feel like a lot of the guys that join, they don't end up leaving our server. It's kind of a home, and we like to try and keep it that way. So like I said, no requirements. We share setups, we share lobbies. We share information. We talk about our real lives. In fact, I just met one of my fellow teammates over the weekend. He decided to make a trip, get a rental car, and come up and see me in Austin. It was really good to, kind of convert some of that digital experience into real life time and get to know Kyle on a better level. So it was really good to see Kyle. Shout out Kyle Mills for making the drive up to see me in Austin this weekend.
Yes, gotta say, I was honestly very jealous of Kyle the Bold Eagle Machine going up to see them there. But Morgan, why don't you take us here through the grid as we're getting ready for this penultimate round of the Elite Entertainment Sportscar Series?
You got it. So at the top, looks like Dylan Newhart coming in P1, capitalizing. Dustin Nierhoff about a half second behind him in P2. Row 2, we have Parker Dime and Jacob Quayle with another good qualifying this week. Row 3 is Coleman Giori in P5, Luis Rios in P6. Behind them, we have Kyle Shelton in P7, Ryan Gleason in 8th, Cayman Lackney with a decent qualifying in P9, Fozzie Fazilla next to him in another McLaren, I believe. And P11 is John Holloway. Next to him is Anthony Rosas in P12.
That does indeed close out our grid here for race 1, and certainly it's going to be an absolutely beautiful view. I'll say worth really getting in on the sponsorship for this venue. Definitely some good quality gear from them. I've got to admit, albeit a little bit expensive, but sometimes you can't really get it as a general member of the public. EV, you definitely need to have an account. But speaking of which, they do actually have a sale on right now. There is a underhood flashlight that I believe is at $89.99 Canadian. Honestly, I've used it before. It's a pretty good bit of gear, so certainly anybody who does indeed enjoy suffering working on cars, that definitely makes it a little bit brighter for you. As you're going to see, the couple of cars still yet to take the grid. Parker Dime, we know he's famously late, as is Luis Rios as well, that number 10 car. The two Mustangs, actually, the only two Mustangs on the grid, actually. No, my apologies, Carl Shelton is there. He's there, actually, alongside his teammate, Carl Shelton. So Parker Dime, honestly, just holding up the show, being fashionably late on this occasion.
Yeah, I know Parker and Austin like to join in together in the last 10 seconds. Some notions about saving fuel anytime idling is fuel spent, but I think Parker's going to be looking in his mirror, looking in his rear view, really hoping, wishing his buddy Austin was here and a fellow Mustang to kind of keep his bumper safe.
Well, absolutely, and certainly we're going to have to see what happens when the Dream Team is indeed set up, as they are now going to go on this pace lap, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Morgan, this is something that I know you definitely will be able to understand a lot better than me. Now, the GT3, it did get a new tyre model at the start of this season. Now, you got to see here, we didn't used to see this quite as much, but the driver is trying to really force a bit of heat into those tyres. But myself, I've never found this to be a worthwhile strategy. All I've ever successfully done with doing this is unplug my steering wheel. Maybe you could shed a little bit of light on that from your experience here, maybe from a tactical point of view. Yeah,
I think on a simulator level, it does work to some extent, but I tend to agree with you, Zippy. I don't really see any major benefits to it. On the same note, though, you don't really wear out your tires doing it either, so it's worth a shot. As long as you're safe about it, don't make contact with the guys around you while you're going back and forth. But you're right, this grid definitely likes to try to get some heat in the tires. With the new tire model in GT3 Zippy, I think that all of the cars drive much more differently than in the past on cold tires in particular. But I think each car really comes into its own way as soon as those tires get some temperature. So I know that timing is different for each car. Sometimes it's 1.5, 2 laps. Sometimes it's on 3 and 4. But it's going to be exciting to watch these cars try to get through Rudskogen. I know a lot of these guys put in a lot of time on this track and try and figure it out.
Yeah, certainly, and the elevation change is indeed going to be a bit of a challenge. I do find my limited experience here that it's almost a test of bravery as well going into some of these corners. But I have a feeling, is that a new paint job there from the 126 of Dustin Neerhoof?
Yeah, it looks like it. Some of these guys aren't tied to their liveries as much as others, and I personally understand a good session over to Training Paints to look for a new livery that you really like. I'm glad to see he's rocking some American banner there with some blue, red, and white and some stars. That's a good look. We definitely have a lot of guys on our team too that like to rep the American livery, so all the power to them.
Yeah, certainly Kyle, the Bald Eagle machine, would be very much on board with that, ladies and gentlemen. He has always been beautifully patriotic, and I gotta say, I definitely get it. You know, it's albeit it's maybe under a little bit more scrutiny from the rest of the world at this point. We're not really going to get into that, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm more proud that, they are indeed representing, but they can't compete with the 125 of Dylan Newhart. You're never going to beat me in a battle where Sofia Vergara is involved, as they are indeed going around the final corner, and it looks like Dylan Newhart has already put the pedal to the metal as he goes green, 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 and away he goes. Neerhoof now going side by side with Parker Dime. Is this going to be the biggest challenge that Dime has seen so far? Calvin Gorey looking to get in on the action as well, as we see two wide further back through the field. It looks like Fozzie Fazzillo going side by side there with John Holloway.
Yeah, I do really much appreciate these Castrol paints bringing up the rear as well. Those are looking great. Looks like Rios and Shelton are going to pick up the two Mustangs in the mid-pack and drive his teammates as they usually do. Neerhoof already applying some pressure to Parker Dime here, and Parker's trying to fight back a little bit. Jumping right into the elevation here. We're coming up through some beautiful S-curves, which you really got to respect the car, especially on cold tires here, so you don't lose it in the transfer of weight. Then you come up to a hard brake point down to a change in elevation downhill to the left. And this part's a lot of fun, but you definitely have to be careful.
Yeah, it definitely looked like you really, really had to get the car slowed down there. And I think Jacob Quayle was able to catch up a little bit there. As I say that, Calvin Gorey applying a very healthy amount of pressure there. Here's an inboard view there, and you can see there looking to maybe sniffing the inside, but that's definitely going to compromise his exit. And so gently on the throttle. Second gear, but only just in second gear, ladies and gentlemen. Just imagine using that just to try and stop a little bit of wheel spin out of those rear tires.
Yeah, I expect Calvin Gorey to be coming in strong at the end of the season here. A couple poor results here and there, but I think it's just the nature of trying to learn the Corvette, as he was in the McLaren last season, I believe. And I think he's really come into his own by the end of the season here, and he'll be looking for a result and try to apply some pressure to Jacob throughout the race.
Well, you can already see here the field starting to spread out very slightly. Dylan Newhart, the only Porsche driver on the grid, the only Sofia Vergara driver on the grid. I gotta say, I'm definitely not going to get tired of that one. If somebody does go inside him in a little bit of an iRacing glitch, I will definitely be jealous. Certainly would be the biggest reason to go on America's Got Talent. But you can see he's managed to get that gap down to about 9/10 of a second. But are we going to see Parker Dime certainly begin to fight back? We know the Mustang takes a little bit of time to get a bit of heat in the tires. I'll say that just as I say it, you see Parker Dime going a little bit sideways there as Dustin Neerhoof looking to try and capitalize on that opportunity.
Yeah, I think Dustin Neerhoof, seeing the incident, had enough time to react and chose safety. Let Parker get back on the track, get back online. I know Parker hasn't had too much of a chance to drive this track, but he is going to learn as he drives for the next 45 minutes. And I've seen it firsthand. He can really start to put together by the end of 20 minutes. So I think he'll really come into his own here, and we'll see if Dustin Neerhoof can really keep up, honestly, as Parker starts to dial in the track with his Mustang.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, I do wish I had the talents of Parker Dime and maybe the sense of humor as well. He's pretty on point, and it's like it's completely effortless for him. As Fozzie Fazzillo, I believe, is getting into a battle as well. Now, we've seen Fozzie have some good battles so far. I think Kyle Shelton was his biggest rival, but he's currently up the road about another 3 positions, ladies and gentlemen. But it looks like the WBM teammate of Cameron Lackney, he's going to be giving him some competition, as we got a Ferrari of Ryan Gleason. I've got to say a huge shout out to his kids again for making that beautiful paint. We're glad he was indeed able to make it for this race. But Cameron Lackney, he's going to have a battle ahead of him, and indeed a battle behind him, as Fozzie Fazzillo is going to try and move his way up into P9.
Yeah, I really do like Ryan's paint. I really like, I feel like all the paints that everyone brings out are always have something to inspire in everyone, but connecting it back to real life, I know some guys try to boost their significant other's business. Some guys like him have his kids paint the car, and I think that's all really wholesome to bring your real world and try to connect it to your sim and kind of merge those two times.
I honestly think it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, let's be realistic about this, ladies and gentlemen. If you put a kid in a simulator around a track, it's generally not going to be... you'd be lucky if they managed to finish the lap without putting in the wall. And that's no dig on the kid. It's just where they're at in that stage of life, right? But I think it's a great way to actually get them involved and get them excited about it. So not only that, get them excited about the broadcast as well. We do try and keep it family friendly, albeit at times that it's towing the line a little bit there. As we see Jacob Quayle is maybe starting to get into a little bit of battle as we got Corvette between Nearhoof, Quayle and Gory.
Yeah, as Parker's tires start to come in, he is pulling a little bit away from Nearhoof, but looks like Jacob Quayle and Coleman Gurry are not going to let Dustin Nearhoof get away with the last spot on the podium very easily tonight.
Oh, absolutely not. And we've seen these guys battles before. Certainly, Parker Diamond's managed to capitalize on that opportunity. He's pulled away about a 1.6 second gap. Diddle Newhart, he's about 2 seconds clear of Parker, but the battle is appearing to be for that final podium spot. Right now, Dustin Nearhoof, the only driver who's actually lost a position so far, albeit taken by Parker Dime. The Stars and Stripes are doing him quite well, but are they going to do him well enough that he can retain that third position?
Yeah, I'm interested to see as the temperatures kind of play out through the race and it stays warm throughout the afternoon here for the race, how these Corvettes really handle. We have 3 of them in the line here, and we'll see how each driver can kind of handle them in turn and where they find their pace throughout the tire cycle and the fuel.
Well, I have got a little bit of a warning here to say that John Holloway has had a bit of an incident. Mo, let's find out exactly what happened. Oh, dear.
Oh, the Castrol paint. Oh, no. Looks just like a little bit too aggressive on the brakes while having the car placed over the curb. You never know. It's easier for those rears to lock up on the curb. Could have been a little bit too much steering input. Could have been a little bit too much rear braking. Either way, car went around on him. And like you said, never want to start that way, but hopefully you can use this quick repair and get back out on track.
Yeah, definitely cold tyres can indeed be a little bit of a culprit as we are about 5 minutes through this race, 40 minutes to go. And certainly looks like these guys are indeed starting to spread out a little bit. Dylan Newhart is managing to maintain that roughly 2 second gap. But are we going to see Calvin Gory start to fight back? Now, the thing is with all of these cars being in the, well, all of these guys being in the same car and it being a fixed out, it's literally a test of driver, a test of patience, and indeed a test of skill, as there really is nothing else separating them other than the nut behind the wheel that they say. And you've got to wonder as well, how's the aero going to play into this? Are we going to see Jacob Quayle able to save some fuel and slingshot them in the pits? Saying that, Calvin Gory has been the absolute master of pit strategy so far this season, coming in early, saving so much fuel and being able to leapfrog others in the pits. Are we going to see them do that again here, as it looks like the teammates, these other 2 Mustangs here for the Apex optional racing, are going to be looking to get into a battle of their own with Ryan Gleason very closely behind.
Yeah, the 2 Mustangs of Rios and Kyle Shelton as we're on board here with Kyle. These 2 guys share pace pretty often, but some tracks they do differ in pace a little bit. But it's good to see these guys out driving together tonight. Looks like they may have done some practice together. I know it's hard to keep those big Mustangs off each other's bumpers, so playing it safe, saving some fuel maybe, playing the team game. We'll see as the race develops.
Well, certainly for me, if it was a Mustang, I'd be more worried about the spectators. If anybody's ever watched a clip on YouTube that involves a Mustang, usually involves innocent people being mowed down. And I mean that in the nicest and humorous of ways, ladies and gentlemen, as this is the closest battle going on. And it looks like there's going to be no team orders, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be no, I can't remember what it is, no team papaya orders, papaya rules, ladies and gentlemen, as Kyle Shelton has made his way up and through past Luis Rios.
Yeah, that turn 1 is a lot of fun, but being on the inside can really slow you down onto this exit into this back straight through the sweeping right-handers here. So it's important to, to respect the pass turn 1, not fight too much, because both of you guys could end up off track, and a long straight here for someone behind you to come capitalize as Ryan Gleason finds some of that speed behind Luis Rios and starts to make up some of that ground.
Yeah, certainly we're going to see here, as that looked like a mistake there by one of the teammates, and now Gleason is up on the inside, on the outside, a little bit of a wiggle there from Rios. He's able to hold on to it, but now the problem for him is WBM's very own Cayman Lackney is right behind. Are we going to see a 5-way battle here for 6th place?
Yeah, Cayman with something to chase now. He likes to chase his rabbit, so as soon as someone's in front of him like that, he can start to measure his brake zones and really dial in his McLaren for the rest of the race. So I know this is going to be to his benefit. Some of the Mustang up ahead of him losing traction at the same spot in those S curves, as we saw Parker earlier with Kyle Shelton's Mustang breaking loose in the same spot, and then Luis Rios through the S curves getting caught up with the weight transfer of the car over the curb. So there's a lot of technical parts of the track. It is short and does go by quick, but you kind of have to stay focused throughout the whole track, or you're going to pay the price here.
Oh dear, there's been something happen in the back and it looked like it hurt. I believe it was Cayman Lackney, ladies and gentlemen. That indeed is not what he had in mind. And Calvin Gorey having a bit of an incident as well. That's why Luis Rios was able to catch up. Let's take the clock back a little bit and see exactly what happened to Calvin Gorey.
Just looking to press it too much on the exit, it looks like. You know, as you said, these guys are still trying to get these tires warm, so anytime there's too much throttle application and the wheels turn too far, the cars are more dangerous. Looks like similar happened to Cayman as he was out there trying to correct his trajectory on the curb. Tough start for both these guys, but it looks like minimal damage to each car, and they're back out there pressing the times.
Yeah, certainly. We know that Calvin Gorey's got some pace. His best lap, I'd say that, is about a second quicker than the lap behind of Kyle Shelton. But saying that, is it going to be enough? Has he maybe put a little bit too much heat in those tires? As you see in the lower speed corners, it's almost like it's fighting, struggling for grip there. But right now, he has indeed managed to pull away a second over the number 21 Mustang. But what about Gleason? Is Gleason going to be able to capitalize on that? He's got Rios behind him. He's got Shelton ahead of him. He's in the middle of this teammate Mustang sandwich.
Yeah, we're going to get some more lap time information coming around the track for these three. I'm interested to see if Ryan Gleason is going to be able to keep up with Kyle Shelton. I do think Kyle Shelton has some pace if he can settle in here, and looks like he had a good exit there onto the home straight as we come up here to the sharp left in the big brake zone.
Well, there you go, Morgan. You ask and you shall receive. There is some lap time information if you compare it to Gleason. And it looks like right now he is indeed having to work very, very hard to keep Rios behind him. Certainly the Mustangs, he's losing the back of Shelton very slightly. I think he's had to go and switch due to the defensive game, as in the bit distant foreground. You can see Forty Pizzillo, I guess, distant background. Let's not quote me, ladies and gentlemen. I'd failed in beautiful failure, ladies and gentlemen. The only time I ever got an A was doing a caricature of Rolf Harris. But unrelated to that, as you see the Mustang making his way past Ryan Gleason.
Yeah, it looks like the outside of that corner is really taking a toll on these cars, so the guys are going to learn as the race develops here to stay inside on the curb through there and try to find some more grip with the track leaning into the car a little bit.
Well, it does look like we had a little bit of an incident there for our only BMW on the grid. I've got to say, a little bit of a shame there, but Anthony Roses, I've got to say, power to him. He does indeed keep coming back. And this looks like the same spot that we saw one of our fellow competitors get caught earlier. And I think he just ran wide and just backed up to just address it. Fair play. Didn't get loose, but saw the end was coming, decided to back out of it.
Yeah, I think he may have prevented the off track, the 1X, up until that point, and figured I'd rather back up a few feet and save that 1X for later than to kind of push through when I'm in the back of the pack here and take those X's early on.
Well, as we return nearer to the front of the pack, ladies and gentlemen, this is the battle for P3. It's Corvette versus Corvette, and it looks like Calvin Gorey, after a little bit of an incident there, he's dropped off the back of the pack. But are we going to see Dustin Neerhoff be able to hold on? He's got Jacob Crail right behind him. These guys have fought so far many times in this season. Corvette versus Corvette, America versus America. As right now here in Norway at Rudskogen, it is indeed Neerhoff who's the top spot.
It's interesting to see where these guys are choosing to try to make their passes tonight. There's not a lot of room for GT3 cars on this track. It is a smaller track and not one these cars are usually attending. So it is exciting to see where these guys find their opportunity and where they try to push the driver ahead of them to make those mistakes to capitalize on that.
Well, I don't know if you can see the chat there, Mo, but we got Alton Dilt saying, let's go WBM. And I'm like, you can babysit for Parker. I can't remember which way round it is and which one's got the kid. I believe Austin has the kid. But we're going to go back here to Ryan Gleason right now, as indeed his kids made that paint job. And right now they're going to be very proud to see their daddy trying to contend and move his way up into P7. Luis Rios ahead. Forty Pizzillo about 1.2 seconds behind as it stands right now. Are we going to see Pizzillo able to capitalize as Gleason there? Sharp on the throttle. Starting to get a little bit closer, but not quite able to carry it through to the exit.
Yeah, it looks like those Mustangs are struggling with so many sharp corners around this track, doing a lot of laps as well in the amount of time. It may start to wear on those Mustangs by the end of 45 minutes, and we'll see if some of these mid-engine cars can really start to tune in to that and capitalize on some of those mistakes from the rear drive front motor cars.
As we say that, we got Cayman Lackney coming down pit road a little bit earlier than I would have expected, but I'll have to see if it is indeed going to pay off. I don't have a crash warning for him at that point, just a little bit of an off track earlier on. We'll take a quick look in just a few short minutes there. I do understand something else happened to John Holloway, poor guy, in that Corvette, but we're going to leave him to his own devices, as right now Rios is trying to hold on, and Pizzillo has managed to bring that gap down from about 1.5 seconds down to 0.8 of a second, ladies and gentlemen. These three cars really bunching up for the battle P7.
Yeah, it's great to see the McLarens out there. I know they are a favorite right now, but in fixed they can be a handful. Same to that Ferrari, Ryan Gleason. Both of these guys are doing a great job to get these cars around the track right now and try to chase down Luis.
Well, they are indeed definitely trying, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, the marshals there with not just a recovery truck, but a safety truck as well, and indeed a paramedic. Certainly, if you're ever at a real racetrack, by all means, if you see a marshal, absolutely shake their hand, because honestly the racing could not happen without them. Race control as well. I appreciate they're not always the most popular people in the paddock, but they certainly, without rules, what are we, ladies and gentlemen? Certainly it's more fun to break rules if you know what the rules are, as it looks like the battle is indeed starting to heat up there. Gleason applying a good amount of pressure and keeping an eye on Nearhoop and Quayle as well, as it looks like they're getting again ever closer. Quayle not yet able to make a move.
Looks like Parker's starting to get his Mustang going this evening. He has taken 4 to 5 tenths off in the last lap or two, so I think he is going to be able to find some pace, and we'll see if those front tires wear out on Dylan like maybe they have a couple races in the past, and if Parker can catch up and start to apply some pressure here.
Oh, indeed, we are indeed going to try and have a look. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the lap graph. So as you can see here, lap 6, pretty evenly balanced. Lap 7 pretty much straightens out lap 6, but then it gets a little bit more interesting. If you start to look at lap 10, he did indeed take another 4 attempts out of him. If he can continue with that pace up, Dime will indeed catch up, and we will potentially see a battle for the lead. Certainly Dylan Newhart, he keeps getting on the podium, but it's not the spot that he wants. Austin Dilt's been out of the running this week. This could be his opportunity to finally get a win here at the Elite Entertainment Sportscar Series.
Yeah, he's been mentioning this one win for his series in many of his interviews, so I am happy personally to see him out in the lead. I'm hoping Parker has some difficulty here. I'm hoping Dylan has a good run for it so we can get him in the P1 interview tonight.
Well, it certainly is indeed a win-win scenario. Both of these drivers representing WBM, but only one of them representing the absolutely beautiful Sofia Vergara. She might be an older lady, but honestly, at that point, it just comes with experience, and I'm not going to complain. Let's be real. I'm not going to complain. As we see Jacob Quayle still riding the rear wing of Dustin Nearhoop, but we're going to check back again to Ryan Gleason there, as it looks like he's starting to apply a little bit of pressure to Fozzie Fazzillo.
Yeah, Fozzie managed to get past Ryan Gleason here in the last lap and a half.
Here's a quick replay of it. You see Fozzie gets the slipstream, absolutely blast by. It's almost like Gleason was applying a bit of a slowdown there, but don't worry, he is indeed fighting back. But is it going to be enough, as Gleason is hot onto the rear wing of that McLaren, and right behind him, you can indeed see, I believe that's the Castrol car of John Holloway.
Yeah, the Castrol car looks absolutely fantastic tonight. I grew up playing early mode Gran Turismo on PS1 and PS2, and those Tom Supras in the Castrol livery are unforgettable to me from my childhood. So it's really nice to see him get that paint on that car. It looks good on every car, in my opinion.
Well, I believe you're thinking of the Castrol Tom's Supra is the exact car you're thinking of. I think it was maybe an 05, but don't quote me on the year. Had absolutely insane power, front engine, rear wheel drive, that 2JZ motor. Again, it's one of those things as well. If you had hindsight, I'm sure that we would have, bought some project cars. Certainly myself, I would have bought an Escort Cosworth, or a Sierra Cosworth. I would have bought one of those. Yourself, would you have bought? What would you have bought, Mo, if you had the opportunity? Maybe you're a bit younger than me, so I'll let you off on that one. But let's say, we'll say 10 years ago, I think you may have been driving at that point.
Honestly, Zippy, I'm going to have to go with my childhood favorite. I actually just sent a photo to my significant other a couple days ago and told her this was my favorite car growing up. I'm going to go with the 98 Eclipse GSX with the 4G63 out of the Evo and some all-wheel drive.
I hate to break it to you, my boss used to have one that he built. I'll have to get you some pictures of that later. I didn't agree with the paint choice. It was like a primer grey, which isn't a colour. It's a shade. But certainly he's now graduated onto an Evo, which he likes to bend connecting rods in. And I'm going to remind him of the fact I just roasted him yet again on the stream, and definitely roast him for doing so. As it looks like, are we going to see a battle a little bit further back here? We are. John Holloway now going at it with Anthony Rosas. It's good to see these guys getting in a fight, and it just goes to show it doesn't matter where you are on track. There is indeed someone to play with here, as Holloway has managed to make that position stick. Yeah,
it looks like Rosas just pushing the BMW a little bit too hard through the brake zone, and unfortunately let Holloway get a little bit away from him there, but we'll see if he can find some pace as the race goes on.
Well, right now there is another battle starting to emerge. I say starting to emerge. It's been going on for quite some time, and it is indeed an old rivalry, ladies and gentlemen, albeit a little bit of a switch up. Kyle Shelton has tagged in his teammate as Luis Rios is going to be the next one to take on the 61 here of Fozzie Fazzillo. Now, we've seen Fozzie. He's definitely I wouldn't say he's an aggressive driver, but he's not afraid to make a move. I think that's probably the fairest way of putting it, is them beautiful gold bronze wheels on that McLaren, carrying a wider line through there, but is he going to compromise his exit there? Certainly these cars, they couldn't be much more different. They are indeed classed the same. They're both GT3, but completely different animals to drive. Certainly Morgan would be able to relate a little bit more on that, but the front engine rear-wheel drive Mustang against the mid-engine, so it's almost like the big football player, I guess, versus the ballerina, which I don't know if I like that as a metaphor, ladies and gentlemen, because it makes, honestly, it suggests that the British are rather weak. And honestly, if you ever see a picture of the WBM guys, they're built like a brick shithouse, and I'm not. But, you know, you got to wonder as well, you know, just how much more agile is that McLaren?
I think around a track like this, the McLaren is going to have the advantage. There are some mid-engine cars that don't handle like the McLaren. The McLaren really seems to stay in grip once you start to introduce some fuel to the gas pedal. So I think it's a great car for this track. I think you're able to carry a lot of speed through the corners, where I think that the Mustang may burn up those front tires a little bit with the elevation changes going around these sharp corners for 40 minutes.
Yeah, certainly we have seen the Mustang suffer a little bit there with the tyre wear. The McLaren a little bit more forgiving, I would say. Certainly it's been my GT3 of choice for a little bit of time here. Actually trying to think what I ended up driving at Spa. I actually ended up in the Ferrari, which was definitely a very unusual change for me. I've never really gotten well with this latest generation Ferrari. I was always preferred the older one, but then also I'm inside. I am a cranky old man, but the whole time this battle is going on, you can see there just in the background Ryan Gleason potentially going to get an opportunity if these guys start going side by side.
Yeah, I know Fozzie's going to be pressing Rios. Like you said, he not necessarily aggressive, but he's not going to make room for you for free. So whether he's behind you or in front of you, he's going to make you work for it. And I think with Rios in his mirror a little bit, Ryan Gleason's finding some pace back here and able to catch up to these two, and it's going to be a three-way battle very shortly.
Well, absolutely. But speaking of battles, it looks like we are indeed going to get one between Dylan Newhart, who's flirting with the off-track limits there, as right behind him is Parker Dime. Now, I got to ask here, there is some drivers who are in the voice chat, and I do remember, I think it's only Kalman Gory who we can't steal. What do you reckon Fozzie's going to do if we drag him in for an interview while he's driving? Is he going to be down for that, or is he more going to be irritated that we were maybe clouding his judgment?
Oh, I think he's good for it. You know, he's here for fun. I know Fozzie very well. I've been driving with him for years. He's one of the first guys that really started to get invested in WBM and start to spend some time with us. So he's been around for a while. And, you know, worst case scenario, his car spins like a tops and bounces off a wall, and we'll be in chat racing again tomorrow.
Well, you say that. I did just drag him in, Morgan. So by all means, why don't you have a little bit of a chat here with your teammate? Maybe give him some words of encouragement as he does indeed try to chase down 7th place, the number 10 of Luis Rios.
Fozzie, it's great to see you out here. How is that McLaren holding up compared to you think Rios is fighting that Mustang? Because it looks like those Mustangs are having to fight for the grip.
He is, and you know, there's a little bit of blocking, but it's not intentional. I think he's just fighting the car.
Yeah, Rudskogen, not too many safe lines through some of these corners, so
No.
It's definitely going to be tough for GT3 to, you know, to make their pass. But hopefully you can stay in his mirror and cloud his judgment a little bit and try to capitalize on a mistake.
Yeah, I think I'm just a tick faster than him. I might not be fast enough to get around him, but I'm gonna give him hell, that's for sure.
As we say that, Ryan Gleason's coming up in the rearview mirror. How do you feel about this battle? You gonna let this one go easy?
Not to look at him. If he gets alongside, he'll be there. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to focus forward.
Well,
all right. Well, we don't want to give you a commentator's curse here, so we'll leave you to it.
Thanks, boys. Have fun.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was indeed Fozzie Pazzillo, and thankfully that did indeed go well, as albeit he's dropped back from Luis Rios. He was great to have him here in the booth as well. I love talking to drivers during the race. Certainly something we did actually over on WDCR, which was a former Monday Night League that's actually going to be returning this fall. But right now, Kalman Gory, he's been down pit road, and I believe he's actually only just going in the pits. It tells me he entered the pits, left the pits. Okay, now he's on his way out. It's just a very long pit lane. I'm not used to it, ladies and gentlemen, as he is our first predictably scheduled pit, because we do have Cayman Lackney who went in earlier, but honestly, I'm wondering if he's going to have the fuel to make the distance.
I think Cayman will have to come in for some fuel. I think he may have been taking the early pit earlier after his incident with a slight contact with the wall. The car may have not appeared damaged, but he may have been trying to fight some wheel damage, some misalignment in the car, and decided maybe it wasn't worth the battle and came in to catch the quick repair early in the race.
Well, as you say that, we do indeed have another competitor making their way down pit road, and It's fair to say I wasn't mistaken. It is quite a long pit here as Jacob Quayle makes his way down that pit lane. You can see here absolutely incredible distance, some beautiful camera shots we have available to us though, but I do have to wonder there what's going to happen when Neerhoof goes through the pit. Certainly these two guys, they've been battling for a while. Quayle were able to make the most of that draft. Are we going to see him make the pass in the pits?
Yeah, doing the first bit of the season with these guys, I know that Jacob Quayle isn't afraid to save some fuel and also cut that margin and limit his pit stop length to the least amount of time possible. So I do think when Neerhoof decides to take his pit, it's going to be very interesting to see where Jacob Quayle comes out after he comes out and pushes for a few laps with clean air.
Yeah, certainly, as I say that, out comes Quayle, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly, that was indeed a quick pit stop. I'll tell you actually just how quick it was. He was in the box. I say that. He was in the box for 10.27 seconds. It doesn't sound like a lot, but both Calvin Gorey and Cayman Lackney were both sufficiently less. I can tell you that Calvin Gorey was in for just under 8 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. So indeed, we are going to have to keep an eye. I do wonder if Calvin Gorey is going to be able to save some fuel, but right now, overall, he has pit and it's put him quite a good ways behind Jacob Quayle, about 3.5 seconds so far. Yeah,
Calvin Gorey has been good at saving fuel all season, so no shock there. He likes to take it easy into the brake zones and be safe on entry. Looks like Fozzie Fazzillo going around.
Yeah, it definitely looks like the same spot that Cayman had a little bit of a notice, but fair play to Fozzie. He did a beautiful 180 there as he rejoined the track. Definitely got a little bit of heat in those tires. Maybe that's a little bit of a time where making a pit stop could indeed be an advantage there, as it looks like the field is starting to separate a little bit here, as Luis Rios now is still having a little bit of a battle there. As I say that, Fazzillo, he takes the advice, ladies and gentlemen, and brings it down pit road.
Yeah, Ryan Gleason, without Fozzie in between him, has not been shy and is moving right up to Luis Rios. So we'll see if Ryan actually had the pace or if he was enjoying Fozzie's draft here.
Yeah, certainly a draft kind of indeed, and not only that, just having somebody to chase and apply pressure to can be very beneficial. You got to work it out. Sometimes the draft can be a misleading thing. You can feel that you're absolutely miles quicker than the guy, then all of a sudden you don't have that draft, and your lap pace just absolutely plummets, ladies and gentlemen. That's generally what happens with me, but certainly Ryan Gleason, he's going to have to apply a little bit more pressure there. He's only about 1.1 seconds back, but not yet enough that Rios is going to be really feeling the pressure.
Yeah, when I try to make my decision about whether I'm going to pass a driver or not, you got to understand sometimes in draft, like you said, you feel like you're significantly faster, but it may be because you can, watch his car in the brake zones and judge your brake zone better. It may be just because of draft. So it's a good telltale thing to actually look at the car ahead of him, kind of reflect on your faster laps that you've done at that track and think about, hey, if I got past this guy, would I be able to make up time on the driver ahead of him? And that's kind of really what weighs my decision when I go to look if it's worth passing a car or not, or if I should just stay in the slipstream and maybe enjoy some fuel saving.
Yeah, certainly for myself, I personally, one of my favorite sports is to absolutely ride the bumper. I want to completely get inside your head, psych you out, and see if I can force you into a mistake the whole time without touching you. To me, that's just artwork, ladies and gentlemen. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't always go to plan. Sometimes I do unintentionally give you a little bit of a shunt off the track, and sometimes it has been intentionally that I've given people a shunt off the track, but we don't tend to admit to that too often, ladies and gentlemen, or indeed race too often, as we found out recently that certain standards and procedures and codes in terms of dealing with said incidents if they occur, and I can tell you that offering a bounty is not a approved method of doing so, albeit highly hilarious in the way to brush it off. Certainly a good thank you to iRacing there for that education and indeed for allowing me back on the service. But it does look like Gleason has managed to catch up a little bit now. That gap has come down about 0.2 of a second. And as I say that, Dylan Newhart is under a bit more pressure there. Parker Dime has just broken the 1 second barrier.
Yeah, through these sweeping corners, it looks like Parker's really able to carry a lot more speed than Dylan. But as we move up into the elevation, the S-curves here, and then into a tough brake zone, right here into a sharp left over the hill, I think the Porsche starts to come alive here, and then back down to the bottom of the hill for a sharp right and back uphill on the acceleration zone. I think this is where the Porsche really comes to life. So I think these guys are kind of splitting where the track is fast, and we'll see if Parker can kind of stay close to that Porsche's bumper.
Yeah, certainly. And you know what? If I was Newhart, it's at this point I would choose to pit. preserve the car, try and get it so that you're not offering any kind of draft there to the 57 of Parker Dime. Certainly, he wants to win this race, and he has been saying it before about how the Porsche is really struggling with the tires. And we're about 28 minutes in. You're about, well, I guess 2/3 of the way here. So that's exactly what he does. Brings it down pit road. We are going to see if we can grab him here in a second. Let him get slowed down and see what's going on. Dylan, definitely a fun race so far. You've been able to hold on to the lead. How are you going to do it in the closing stages of this race, though?
I mean, just keep it consistent. Try and keep it consistent. You know, I have the lead right now so far. And, you know, try not to get more slowdowns like I just did.
Well, certainly we did have to wonder how Parker Dime caught up, but certainly we are going to wish you the best of luck. Sofia Vergara seems to be the good luck charm that you needed. And fair say, I would certainly wish you was my good luck charm. But Dylan, we're going to leave you to it and indeed wish you the best of luck. As a very, very short pit stop there. 9.13 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. The only person quicker was Cameron Gorey with 7.95. So we're going to have to keep an eye on Parker Dime and see what he can do. But Dylan, good luck in this race.
Thank you, Zippy.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Dylan Newhart, one of the newest drivers to join WBM, and it's fair play to him. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And certainly almost a behind-the-scene member here of Pit Road Productions. Definitely been very helping us out. Get hopefully a promotional video coming to you guys very soon. We're trying to get a combination of what Pit Road Productions really is about. Obviously, you guys know all about the sim racing side, but we don't do just that. We actually do real-life commentary as well. As at the track series for the weekend on Sunday, doing the commentary at Atlantic Motorsport Park. I recently got to commentate the biggest event we had there since 1985. We had about 80 cars registered over the weekend. It was absolutely diabolically insane. Can you imagine that, Morgan? 80 cars in a weekend. Just think how fun that would be. But then on top of that as well, we also sponsor a race series. The track series is being that series. And we also have our logo on a pair of Radical SR3 race cars. Thank you very much to Lima Racing. Certainly we're going to show you a little cheap picture of some of their cars probably in the next couple of weeks or so. We're getting a little bit more marketing from them. But I got to say, as sim racing broadcasters go, we're pretty out there.
Yeah, it's really nice to see you guys be able to kind of touch all fields of the racing. I personally think it's really cool that you are on track with real life drivers at some point. It's one thing to kind of be at home and have it feel like a hobby, whether you're broadcasting or you're sim racing, but it's another thing to show up to a track and be involved and grab a real microphone. So shout out you, and I'm very supportive of that, and I think it's a good pursuit.
Yeah, certainly. I'm definitely giving it a go, certainly, and I think the only thing left to do is to, I say Pit Road Productions is indeed represented by drivers, but I have a feeling that I'm going to have to maybe start getting behind the wheel at some point, not just on the lapping side, but maybe behind the wheel of a race car. Certainly, there has been the opportunity presented to me to test drive one of these Radical SR3s. A huge thanks to Rob Burgess for that from Radical Canada. Certainly, it's been a couple of years potentially in the making, but a huge thank you to him for offering me that. I'm going to have to make sure I take him up on that before too long. But here's going to be the big question for this race, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly, we saw Dylan Newhart. He has indeed been in the pits. Dustin Neerhoof yet to make the pit stop. Where is he going to emerge in comparison to Parker Dime? It was 9.13 seconds in the box. Keeping an eye on the timer. And Dime was a little bit slower there, 9.45 seconds. Are we going to see Dylan Newhart slingshot his way back into the lead? Parker Dime on his way out of pit road. Here comes Newhart, and it looks like Newhart's going to regain the lead. Parker Dime now is going to be, it's a drag race all the way round turn 2.
Wow, Parker makes up over a second in the pit stop. Right on Dylan's bumper now. Has plenty of time to apply the pressure. We'll see how Dylan responds to this kind of pressure.
Well, he indeed is under pressure right now, as there goes Parker Dime, ladies and gentlemen. That Mustang, the tyres are hot. Or saying that, they've just been in the pits for a second. It's Sofia Vergara or indeed Dylan Newhart going to be able to recover and make his way up onto the top spot. He's been fighting for a win the entire season. Look at that, a little bit of a correction there from Dime, the 57, under some pressure. He's got Sofia Vergara behind him. Is he going to be able to hold on?
Yeah, we've had some words exchanged with these two in multiple different chats this week in Discord. So I know it's all in good spirits, but I'm not surprised to see Parker come out of the pit stall with his elbows out and jump to the inside there.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one of those oh damn it moments there. Newhart has been fighting hard for this win. All he can do right now is try and force Dime into a mistake. Certainly Dime has been incredibly consistent. Generally, if you see a mistake from him or Austin Dills, it tends to be at the start while that Mustang's rocking some cold tires. But right now, Newhart is hot under attack, and we have just about 12 minutes left of this race to go. Who's going to come out on top? Neerhoop is currently your race leader, ladies and gentlemen, but yet to make a pit stop.
Yeah, I think with everyone having a drop race, Parker just needs to play it safe. P1 and P2 are both good when you got championship setups like him right now. So he just needs to keep the car safe and make sure Dylan doesn't do anything too spunky behind him and cause both of them an incident. So I want to say he's going to push a little bit, try to get out of the draft. But at the same time, as long as Dylan's staying where he's put, I think he's just going to play it safe.
Yeah, certainly, and if you look at the I rating for these drivers as well, I'm going to try and show it up for you guys here a second. I'm hoping it's going to give the full details. Damn it, it doesn't. I'll give you the full info, ladies and gentlemen. So, Parker Dime, 2,510 I rating. Dylan Newhart, 2,504. There's literally just 6 I rating between them and about 0.6 of a second as well. It's going to be an incredibly tight battle between WBM's newest member, Dylan Newhart, kindly represented by Sofia Vergara on this occasion, and indeed Parker Dime, one of the season favorites and indeed one of the core members here at WBM.
Yeah, I got to say, as the team lead, it is good to see Parker take the lead. We like Dylan a lot, and he's a great guy, but we don't want him coming in here and setting the bar too high for us. So I'm glad to see our top drivers can still take him down and, you know, not put him in his place, but at least give him a rear bumper to look at over the course of a race.
Well, certainly, at the minute, that gap is indeed starting to expand. You know what I feel would actually even the score a little bit? Let's try and get Parker into this interview booth. So, Parker, I got to admit that looked like it was a bit spicy on pit exit, but you managed to make your way into the lead. What's going to be your technique for the rest of this race?
Don't make any of the mistakes I made at the beginning of the race.
Well, certainly, you have indeed got a great distraction behind you in the form of Sofia Vergara, represented by Dylan Newhart, or indeed the other way around, depends on how you look at it. But definitely, he was able to get that pass done coming out of pit road. It was a beautiful pass, fair play to you. But the Porsche, I got to say, generally known to be a little bit better on the brakes. Do you find that that's going to be an advantage here for Dylan, or do you think the Mustang's got the power to keep it going on the straights?
It has the decent power, but I mean, if he tries to take this position, he better be ready to fight. I'm not going to wreck us, but I'm not going to make it easy.
Well, before we let him go, Morgan, any words of wisdom from the team captain himself?
No, as I just said on the broadcast, Parker, I'm glad to see make the pass on Dylan. We like Dylan a lot, but he's a new guy, and we got to have our top drivers out front. So, like you said, don't give him any freebies.
Yeah, I'll be sure to do that. Leave me to it. I'm getting distracted.
Well, that is exactly what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. That was indeed Parker Dime. Good to get him here in the booth, as indeed this is the closest battle happening on screen right now. And still yet to make a pit is your race leader, Dustin Neerhoop. He's got to be coming in for fuel sometime soon, as right behind him, that's one of the WBM cars, as Ryan Gleason now makes his way down pit road. But I got to wonder, who is that? Tucked in right behind Neerhoop, saving a little bit of fuel. Is it going to be Cayman Lackney? No, it's actually Fozzie Fazillo, ladies and gentlemen. Fozzie using the first place car to try and slingshot himself up through and maybe catch up to the back of Luis Rios, albeit he's 17 seconds ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad to see Fozzie get some pace throughout the race. I know that him and Cayman both kind of need to come into the McLaren as the tire warms up, so I know Fozzie will apply pressure to whoever he's around. He doesn't care if you're lapping him or if you're getting lapped. He's going to race you just the same.
I honestly take the same view, because honestly a blue flag does not mean you slow. It just means you may have had a little bit of an incident there, as right now that gap has indeed come down, as we've seen a pass there from Gleason there on Rios.
Wow, cutting it close out of the pit stop. Looks like Ryan got a good run out on the outside.
Yeah, definitely. It's we've seen this twice now so far. It looks like we've seen it by Parker Dime in a Mustang, and now this time we're seeing it in with Ryan Gleason and indeed Luis Rios there in that Mustang. But are we going to be able to see Gleason fight back that beautifully painted car? I've got to be honest, I'm not generally an artsy guy, but I do approve of this one. But are we going to see the Ferrari, the more nimble machine, be able to capitalize on that, as finally Neerhoop has brought it in the pits? Now this is going to be a very interesting one to watch. Has he saved enough fuel? His pit time was about 1.6 seconds quicker than that of Parker Dime and Dylan Newhart. Dylan Newhart? Yeah, Dylan Newhart, ladies and gentlemen. Are we going to see him manage to retain that position? Sadly not. He is indeed fallen back as the two of them further up the field. 20 seconds clear, ladies and gentlemen. The battle for the lead continues. Dime versus Dylan.
Yeah, it looks like Dylan's starting to push the Porsche and make sure he stays close enough to Parker that Parker doesn't get any hot ideas about break and draft. And we'll see if Dylan pushes the car too hard here. I think his steering input's going to be a good tell here.
Sorry, I changed the camera on you right then. I'm so sorry there.
You're all right. Both of these guys look really dialed in right now. These cars are up to temp, hot track, only a few minutes left, and it looks like both guys are hanging on well. So it should be a close battle, and I don't think either of these two drivers are going anywhere.
Well, you can see there, that looked like a little bit of understeer there from Newhart, just trying to get the front of that car to start showing a bit of grip. I believe the fuel tank for this vehicle adds is actually in the front, so as the fuel load gets lighter, he's going to be struggling more and more. Don't get me wrong, is weight in a race car good? Not necessarily, but it depends about where that weight is. If you have a little bit over the front axle, it may indeed try and help you dig in, get a little bit of weight onto that front axle, and indeed push those tires into the wall. As we see a lapped car right there, I have a feeling that maybe Cayman Lackney. It is indeed, as the two race leaders make their way by just 7/10 of a second apart as they have 6 minutes left to go.
Yeah, it looks like we're losing some sunshine. The track's going to be cooling for the last 8 minutes, so I think these guys are going to be pushing for some hot laps. And I know Parker right now has a little bit faster of a hot lap than Dylan, but I think with some draft and some leader ahead of him, I think Dylan is going to be able to push that fastest lap this race.
Yeah, certainly there isn't indeed a lot, and actually their best lap just 1/10 of a second between them. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. They are so evenly matched, not just on iRacing, not just on lap time, but indeed on the track as well. Certainly so far, Dime has indeed got the tally pretty much stricken, but Newhart, he's motivated. He's got Sofia Vergara on his side, and indeed, I mean, with a view like that, I'm sorry, I wouldn't be looking at the road. She's gorgeous, ladies and gentlemen. What can I say? Easily distracted, and certainly it's been a pain I've been requesting for a while. Fair play to me. I don't think Steve Harvey quite has the same effect, ladies and gentlemen. Forgive me. I mean, he's an incredible human being, but not quite having that effect as Newhart looking to try and make his way up onto the top step of the podium.
Yeah, I know Parker was feeling a little bit less stressed this week with the championship points being the way they were, and also having a drop round to kind of rely on here if his result didn't come in. So I'm glad to see, like I said at the beginning, he did learn the track throughout the first few laps, really solidifying the knowledge base and start to test the limits of the track. And he mentioned a couple mistakes early, but nothing too crucial, and he was able to have a good first stint, capitalize on a pit cycle, really ran some good laps and some clean air, and take the lead away from Dylan.
Well, we've just seen another pass happen this time for P11 as John Holloway making his way back by Anthony Rosas in that BMW. It's good to see it. Battles happening throughout the field. As we look at P7, it looks like himself and Ryan Gleason are still going at it. Gleason about 7/10 of a second behind the closest battle we have on track right now, albeit only close. We've actually got 3 battles going on, ladies and gentlemen. I love how this league seems to do it to us. We have themselves, we have Parker Diamond, Dylan Newhart, and indeed we have Holloway and Rosas, all of them fighting for positions in the closing 5 minutes of this race.
Yeah, this right-hander right here really starts to invite you to some early fuel, but it's really important to play it safe and wait till the nose is pointing in the right direction. These two sweeping rights are some of my favorites on the track, kind of reminiscent of Fuji down the hill and then back up the hill. Got to time this turn in correctly right here to find the most grip on the inside and put the power down up the hill here.
Yeah, certainly. I've always had a very hard time with this. When it comes to elevation change, I like Donington National, and indeed I like Road Atlanta, albeit Road Atlanta, you've really got to go more by memory about where the apex of that curb is. You know exactly the one I'm thinking of, and it's definitely on the Princess-approved track list. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we're a little bit late getting to that statement here. Certainly, we do indeed want it to be so recognized it ends up in the Urban Dictionary. But right now, Jacob Quayle as well, he's getting into a fight. Calvin Gorey a little bit behind. Now, Gorey was one of the earlier pitters there. Not the quickest pit stop, but certainly in the lower region with a 7.95. Quayle, however, 10.27, so maybe he's carrying a little bit of extra fuel, but Calvin Gorey is absolutely reeling him in. That was about half a second in a couple of corners. I do have to wonder if Quayle's trying to serve a slowdown here, as Calvin Gorey very much hot in pursuit there, looking to make his way up into P4.
Yeah, I am curious how much fuel Calvin Gorey has to be pushing with the early pit stop, knowing how the fuel calculators work in iRacing. It is going to be tough to kind of maintain a high velocity throughout the rest of the race, pitting that early if he did cut his fuel.
Well, getting incredibly close there. It looked like if we got any closer, Quayle was indeed going to need a band-aid on that back bumper, as I do believe something happened with Cayman Lackney, but we're going to stay with this battle for right now. It's Corvette versus Corvette, ladies and gentlemen. Quayle versus Gory in the battle for P4 with 2.5 minutes left to go here at Rudskogen.
Yeah, here's a good late double apex into the front straight. Timing is super important here, not taking too much curb on the outside, and then down the short straight up into the big brake zone in the sharp left, where you have to take a lot of curb, and it unsettles the car quite a bit.
Yeah, certainly it is indeed risk versus reward, and the battle for P4 is very much in progress. It looks like Quayle's going to be able to hold on, but for how long? Calvin Gory, almost a little bit of a late bloomer there, but on that last lap, he took 0.4 of a second out of the Corvette ahead, and he is right in the slipstream. He's got 3 tenths left to go. Are we going to see Gory hold on to the very end? They got lap traffic ahead of them of John Holloway and indeed, well, actually John Holloway and indeed one of the WBM cars. And that's contact, and Quayle goes around. That is not the move Gory was looking for. We'll check a replay in just a moment there, find out exactly what happened, but it did appear that maybe went in a little bit too hot.
Yeah, it looks like Jacob Quayle's car got a little bit loose, needed to check up, slow it down a little bit to make a correction, and Kalman came through with a lot of speed on a good line there, and unfortunately couldn't get the car slowed down.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how I would review that incident there. It would maybe go as a racing incident, but definitely not the best way to make a pass. Certainly, it could go either way. But ladies and gentlemen, that is why we are not stewards, ladies and gentlemen. And well, certainly I'm not. I have got absolutely zero interest in being a steward. Indeed, I have been asked before, but it does look like Drew Trader is in the interview waiting room. Let's see if he is indeed around. Drew, are you there? I guess not. We'll see if he turns his mic back on. Hey, there you are. Drew, what can we do for you?
Well, I was just kind of waiting for this race to finish up because I feel like we have crowned our champion.
Okay, well, I've got to be honest, Drew, I can barely hear you, so if you'd like to pull the microphone out of whichever crevice it's currently in, bring it a little bit nearer your mouth instead. We'd love to hear a little bit more about what you've got to say.
Is that better? My input gain got turned down somehow.
Yeah, give me a little bit more.
Little bit. That's 100%. That's as much as it'll go.
All right, well, don't take this the wrong way, but I'm going to turn you up a little bit here. Hang on.
Oh, that's fine. I've had weird mic issues here lately, so you're good.
Well, I've now got you at 200%. That's a whole lot of Drew. But Drew, what can you tell us as we are indeed in the penultimate round here for the Elite Entertainment Sportscar Series?
Well, with Parker having an absolutely dominating season here by way of points and him still having a drop race really in his back pocket, nobody's going to be able to touch him for the championship. So he's officially clinched it at this point.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, looks like good news here for Parker Dime, but we're going to have to do a little bit of catch-up here, as it looked like there was an incident with Jacob Quayle a little bit earlier on here. Let's have a quick look. Oh. So here's the replay. We saw Calvin Gory go around, but then it looks like Quayle then repassed. So there you go. There's the incident. But then Quayle finds his way back past Gory. So let's find out what happened there. And it looked like Gory lifted off. That's great sportsmanship, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see Calvin Gory. Obviously, they discussed it in the chat. And indeed, that battle is now back on for P4.
Yeah, Kalman taking a lot of speed into this right-hander. Back up the hill. Jacob Quayle seems to be able to manage the distance between them now. I think we are on our last lap for these two, so I'm not sure if Kalman's going to have enough time to get it done.
Oh, we're checkered here. We're checkered, ladies and gentlemen. Check it as here comes Parker Dime. Dylan Newhard not quite able to get it done, ladies and gentlemen, but I've got to say fair play to him. He did Sophia proud, as it looks like Dustin Neerhooper is going to indeed be another 28 seconds behind, but we got to go back to the battle here between Jacob Quayle and Calvin Gory, as it looks like Calvin Gory, great sportsmanship, but is it going to cost him this position in the end? Don't get me wrong, we love to see great sportsmanship here. Actually, oh my gosh, I can't remember what his name is, but certainly there's a gentleman there who I've raced with before in Spec Racer 4 is absolutely... One-Chi Lin actually has the best sportsmanship I've ever seen on iRacing. Fantastic sportsmanship, but Calvin Gory put in a great demonstration there, as it's indeed going to be a drag race down to the line. And there goes John Holloway there, as indeed they do bring it across the line. Corvette, and Corvette in 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, it was definitely an exciting race for having such few cars out there. Looks like the back markers decided to stay out, take the quick repairs, and continue doing laps. So there was battles all over the track, and I would say this 45 minutes flew by for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, there was always something happening to keep us entertained, as it looks like Luis Rios is still not yet out of the woods. You can see Ryan Gleason behind. I think both of these drivers have got enough fuel, but fair play to them. They did indeed have a very good fight there. Going to be a couple of cars across the line, as Fozzie Basillo, without fail, absolutely tearing it up, ladies and gentlemen, on that corner exit.
Yeah, it's good to see the guys have some fun, even when they don't get the best result. We're happy to see some white smoke on turn 2 and 3 as they start to pull over and have a little fun with the cars.
Absolutely fantastic stuff here, Morgan, as we are indeed going to go over the results. I tell you what, sir, why don't you do the honors?
Parker Dime coming in P1 with the late pass on Dylan Newhart coming out of the pits. Dylan Newhart in P2. Third position goes to Dustin Nearhoof. Jacob Quayle in 4th place. P5 is Colin Giori with Kyle Shelton close behind in P6. Luis Rios, which we saw at the end, in P7 with Ryan Gleason in his Ferrari chasing him in P8. P9 was Fozzie Fazzillo. 10th was Cayman Lackney, followed by John Holloway in 11th and Anthony Rosas in the back of the pack in P12.
Well, absolutely fantastic stuff, but I guess we probably should talk to this gentleman here once again. Morgan Smith, I believe I believe he's been officially crowned the champion. I was going to say, would you like to break the news to him? I kind of just did that by accident, but certainly we have indeed been able to catch up with our race winner. Morgan's there with a chat.
Yeah, Parker, great race tonight. How did you feel about your pit strategy and getting some clean air for a few laps before going into the pits?
God, I was hoping my pits would make up the time that I obviously just wasn't making up on track. This is like a race that I really didn't feel confident in, didn't put in a lot of practice, so I was able to, kind of learn his line and then, apply it to what I was already doing, and it ended up working out. But tires are sketchy, and he had me sweating there for sure. Like, Dylan's just getting faster and faster every race.
Yeah, how do you feel about the competition with Dylan going into Sebring next week? Are you a fan of Sebring?
I love Sebring. He doesn't, so I don't know if he feels too confident, but no, Sebring's always a fun track. Hopefully, we get some team cars out there, but yeah, Sebring's always a banger of a track, and I'm excited to end the season there. It'll be fun.
Yeah, exciting. Hopefully we can get Austin back in his Mustang as well. We saw your cold tire struggle a little bit at the beginning of the race, but it was good to see you get the car settled down, the tires warm, and finally start to find some pace as the middle of the race developed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anyone you'd like to say thank you to before we let you go?
My team.
I believe we're back on air, ladies and gentlemen. Please carry on.
Anyway, so I would like to thank the team owner, Morgan Smith, yourself, for letting me be in the team, and then friends and family, my wife, and parents, and Pit Road Productions for always a great broadcast to watch back.
Well, we'll see how great it was with me. I'm a little bit of a newbie, still learning here, but I'm learning on track just as much as I am on the mic, so hopefully we'll do all right.
You probably did fine.
Thanks for joining us, Parker. We'll see you next week at Sebring.
Yeah, take it easy.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was indeed the championship winner, Parker Dime. But certainly we feel that this gentleman has put in a very good effort. And don't get me wrong, he has managed to do an entire season, I believe, without a win, which is a little bit of a tender subject. But Dylan, Sophia did you pretty good this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well have put Lando Norris on that car the way I'm messing up wins. But yeah, I gave it my best, that's for sure. Had to slow down, that cost me the race, but I gave him a run for his money, that's for sure.
Well, indeed, you definitely did, and it was good to see a quality celebrity there on that car. But Dylan, we're heading to Sebring next week. Now, while the championship may be decided, there's still got to be that earning, that desire, that craving to try and get yourself up onto the top step. Do you reckon Sebring is going to be the track where you manage to pull that off?
I cannot tame the bumps at Sebring, so most likely not. But Ian Parker might do something fun and start from the back or something, since we're 1-2 secured. So we'll see. Try and do something a little fun and end out the season.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for fun, Dylan Newhart certainly does deliver. I don't know who he's going to be putting on the car next week, but certainly this one I want you to leave it to a surprise for me. Something I always get a little bit of a giggle of when I join the session. But certainly, if you got any suggestions, by all means, PM them to him, not me. I don't want to know. I want to enjoy the surprise as a guy who generally doesn't actually enjoy surprises. And definitely, we look forward to that next week. But Dylan, before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to shout out for today's performance here at Rudskogen?
I guess I'll shout out Sofia Vergara for featuring on the car, and then I'll go with I'll go with you guys. You guys always put on a great show. I'm sure Morgan did his best.
That's all that matters.
Exactly, you tried. And shout out to Drew and Adam for putting this league together. It's a ton of fun.
Well, definitely some very valid points, ladies and gentlemen. As we see the 1-2-5 at Dylan Newhart, second place yet again. Maybe we'll see something a little bit different at Sebring. Certainly, he has indeed been working hard. And I'm going to say, I'm going to give him a little bit more confidence. I think with a little bit of practice and a little bit of punting, he can certainly get Parker Dime out the way. Certainly, if you first, you can't win clean. Cheat, ladies and gentlemen. Not genuine advice, just a little bit of friendly banter there. But certainly the two WBM drivers, I'm sure, will be very well represented. Actually, maybe we'll even get Austin Dills back as well. Certainly the podium contenders given a actually WBM. How many guys have we got in here, Mogan? Count them down a second here. We got Parker, Dylan, yourself usually, Cayman, Fozzie. Damn.
In Austin.
Austin, yeah. On
Austin, last week we had Malik, so we're up to 7 or 8. It was one thing I told Adam. If our name's on it, I'm sure the guys are going to show up. So I'm glad we got so many cars out on grid this season for Adam.
Yeah, definitely. Not only does he sponsor the series, ladies and gentlemen, he brings about half the field to it. So fair play to him. But we're going to let Dylan Newhart go, as we should probably bring in Dustin Neerhoof. Now, Morgan, I understand you've been able to catch up with our third place finisher in the 126 Corvette.
Yeah, Dustin Neerhoof, it was a great race out of you this evening. Doesn't look similar to last week where you may have not had the pace to pressure Dylan. Are you regretting last week maybe giving Dylan Newhart the freebie?
No, at the end of the day, we were racing for fun. I was behind my teammate. We were just chilling. I was just riding along behind him, seeing how I could do, and it was a fun race either way. This week, I just couldn't find my pace, and it was all right. I was still hanging in there. I thought that Jacob was actually going to pass me a couple of times, but I managed to get a better pit stop than him. Then it looked like him and Kalman got together behind me towards the end there, which was unfortunate. But
yeah, at one point in the middle of the race, we had you, Kalman, and Jacob Quayle all close together, 3 Corvettes. It was very interesting seeing where each of you found your pace throughout the race. How do you feel about taking that same car to Sebring next week?
At Sebring, I actually really like the track. I've mostly only ran it in either the Porsche or the Mercedes. I've never ran it in the Corvette. So I think I'll be able to adjust, but we'll see how it goes. I have a good feeling about that track, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thanks for joining us in the broadcast booth here. Do you have anyone you want to make a shout out to before we wrap up the show here?
Thank you guys for putting on this event. You guys are doing a great job. I look forward to every week, every race. Just thank you guys, and that's really all.
Well, thanks. It was a pleasure having you. Pleasure to hear from you, Dustin, and hopefully we'll see you on the podium steps next week again at Sebring, sir.
Fingers crossed.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that indeed was Dustin Neerhoof. He was our third place finisher for today, ladies and gentlemen. But we are indeed going to get ready to wrap this show up. I got to say, Morgan, it was definitely a very fun round indeed. Certainly, you saw some fantastic battles. Sofia Vergara, it's great to finally see her on the stream, albeit on Dylan's race car. Definitely put in a good performance, I got to say, nonetheless. But we head over to Sebring, and I think you're going to be back on track for that one. What advice would you give for these drivers, and what's maybe some of the battles we should be keeping an eye on in the closing stages of this championship?
I think you got to do laps at Sebring. Unfortunately, I think it's a track that really just comes with seat time. Finding the bumps, figuring out where the blips and the pedals are, where to steer with the wheel, where to steer with the pedals, where you have to respect the track. And there's multiple lines through a lot of corners on Sebring. So also, where you're comfortable driving and also where your car responds the best. So there's a lot to figure out at Sebring. It's a very exciting track. I think it's one of my favorites in real life to watch the racing and also to be a part of on iRacing here. So I'm very excited to hopefully have the pit team get my Audi back together so I can get back out there next week.
That's definitely fair. Certainly not seeing the best of luck for that Audi, albeit it looks fantastic, the best paint job on the grid. But I've got to say, it's been an absolutely fantastic evening here on Pit Road Productions. I've got to say, let's give a huge shout out as well to Morgan Smith. It's only his third show doing commentary, but I've got to admit, for this one, he was on point. I couldn't be more proud of him than this particular time, as I did this on camera very deliberately just to see if I can make the bearded man to my right blush, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly, I think it's going to take a little bit more effort there. Certainly, where's Kyle Mills when you need him? I'm sure he would have something borderline inappropriate, but beautifully patriotic and inspiring at the same time. Certainly bring that across the line. But ladies and gentlemen, that indeed is going to wrap up the show here on Pit Road Productions. It's been the Elite Entertainment Sportscar Series, sponsored by WBM Racing, who you've seen have absolutely incredible success here today at Rudskogen, taking in a 1 and 2 positions respectfully so. But we're going to have to see you next week for Sebring and indeed the final round of this series. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.